So welcome everybody. My name is Sarah Seidelman. I'm doing this series called the Hummingbird series, where I am just visiting sweet and amazing people that I know in hopes that they're going to share a little bit of their wisdom with you to help you out. And so today we're very fortunate to have Sheryl Shields with us. And she is a former teacher who has now made it her life's mission to help teachers find their happy, find their feel good. So I want to introduce you, Sheryl. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. You're doing amazing work. You're writing great books, and you're changing the world. So that's my goal, is to be like you.
Oh, and Sheryl has this wonderful book, which has the fantastic title, Teaching Can Kill You, because it's no joke.
Yeah.
And we're going to just talk about, if you're a teacher and you're listening, definitely encourage you to post questions and comments to this video, because we'll both be tuning back in and checking in for Sheryl. And I wanted to invite Sheryl just to share, if you're a teacher and you're burned out or you're fried right now, and my gosh, there's been a lot going on with the shootings and all the pressure on teachers, to stand for this or keep our kids safe and all this stress. What do you have to say to people who are like, whoa, I can't do another day?
Okay, so I have a couple of tips. Well, 3 tips to be exactly. One is, my main overarching goal is to help teachers understand, and everybody understand, that life is too short to do work you hate. And that being a teacher, that is so important, because if you are a horrible teacher, and we've all had horrible teachers, that leaves a mark on you forever. I mean, in my retirement speech, I was just trying to have my fellow colleagues understand that you have to do no harm in the classroom. And then when you do harm, you have to apologize immediately. Because if you don't, it'll be 40, 50 years. And I told them a story about how a teacher shamed me in the classroom, 40 years ago. And I still remembered. And I did not talk in his classroom for the rest of the school year, because he embarrassed me so greatly. And I didn't know at that time that it was called shame, thanks to Brene Brown. We all know that.
God bless her.
Yes, exactly. And so just helping them and encouraging them to just be nice. If you don't like a kid, it's your professional obligation to get to know them and to build relationships. So, I decided that I wanted to help teachers, because we go through a lot during the course of a day, and it's extremely stressful. And so if there's something about your job that you hate, figure out what is it that you hate. Like when I was teaching, I hated the meetings. So there were a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I wouldn't go. And then I was doing a professional development class one day at a teacher's fair, and I told them how I just didn't go. And I got in trouble.
Oh, geez.
The principal knocked on my door, and he was like, I heard you're not going to meetings. And I was like, there are times when I have to grade papers. I have to figure out what's more important, grading these assessments, putting these grades in, or going to a meeting. So I made that choice. If you want to punish me, that's fine. I don't care. So I had to write this letter of apology and all these other things, and that was fine. It was good. But, that was one thing I hated. And so once I knew the things I hated, I tried to do things in order to cure that. So my one solution was to not go. That didn't work. And so then my next solution was then do something there to feel like I'm being productive. So I would take papers to grade. And then they came out with an email that said, you can't bring papers to grade.
Foiled again.
Yes. And so I just decided that I was going to try to find something useful in those meetings. Awesome. Sometimes I was successful, sometimes I wasn't, but I paid attention and I was a good student. So once I figured out that there was nothing I could do, I tried to change my frame of mind. My thinking about these meetings. I hated them, as most people do. And so figuring out, why do I hate it? Well, because it's a waste of time. Is it really a waste of time? Who would you be without the thought doing the work by Byron Katie? Who would you be without the thought that these teacher meetings were a waste of time? Wow. Okay, I'd be just okay to just sit there and relax and maybe, try to meditate or, or find some nugget of information that might be helpful.
Yeah.
And so that helped.
Love it. And when we're present, it's like everything is pretty good.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, like what does Mary Oliver says, life, you know, pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. But I think there's something, the minute you start paying attention, even something that you used to really becomes doable or okay anyway.
Right. So that was a big help. Another tip is, you know, like I just said, try to find some solutions. You know, my solution was to grade papers. That didn't work. It was to be present. That helped. Awesome. You know, and you can do that with anything. I mean, like I had students that I knew from the first day of class, I would not like them at all.
We're humans, right? We have preferences.
Yes, but as a professional educator, it's my job, my obligation to be kind and courteous to these people that are sitting in my classroom. And so I realized that, you know, what are the things I hate about them? And so I would write it down, that they're rude, they're disrespectful, they talk out of turn, they have this flippant attitude and all these things. And then I thought, how am I like that?
Oh, yeah. That's where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
Yes. And that's the part about coaching that saved my life as a teacher. And so I said, okay, when I'm at meetings, sometimes I'm disruptive. When I don't like things, sometimes I say things that are rude and disrespectful.
Oopsie daisies.
Right. And so then, you know, I would do professional development work with teachers, and I would have them go through this activity, and they were like, I'm not like that, that's not true. And then for homework, they had to have a genuine conversation with those students before they came back the next week.
Oh.
And they were, you know, someone, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, that's fine. Just like your students in your class, when they don't do your homework, how do you feel? Just try it. Just try it. Good. It's an experiment. Just try it. And so the next week, teachers came back, and one teacher, when she came in, she was like, okay, can we start right now? Because I have a story, and I have my tissues. I've been crying all week about this. And I was like, whoa. Okay. Hey, guys, sit down. Let's start. And she was like, yeah, I thought you were crazy telling me to do this stuff. And I had these two girls in my first period class, and I would sit them on opposite ends of the class, and they would still talk the whole period across the room. And I was like, yeah, I've had those. And so she said, one day I just decided to okay, it's Wednesday. I know I have to go back Monday, so I'm just going to try it. So the one girl came in first, and she was like, hey, come here for a second. And the girl came out and was like, what do you want? She was like, how are you? She was like, what are you talking about? She was like, how are you? How's it going? And she was like, it's really rough at home. You know, my mom has cancer, and sometimes I'm late because I have to get my sisters and brothers to school, and I have to cook breakfast, and I have to do all this stuff, and my mom's dying. And the teacher started crying, and she was like, I hugged her. This was a girl the day before I hated every bit of her.
Right.
And now I'm hugging her and telling her it's okay. It's going to be all right.
I'm getting verklempt as you're telling it. It's just like, it's so heartbreaking. Yes.
And so she said, she said, here, let me write you. Have you told the counselors? Have you talked to anybody? And she was like, no, my mom said to keep it private. And she said, I told her, no, you can get help. Your mom can get help. There are things, there's solutions. People can help you and your mom. So here, go to counseling. She wrote her to pass the counseling. And the girl came back in the class. And, you know, the other girl was normally fine when the one girl wasn't there. And so, you know, the main antagonizer came back from counseling, and she sat down, and then the other girl looked at her and was like, okay, here we go.
I can't wait.
Time to party.
Yeah.
And so the other girl said something, and she looked at her and she said, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're learning.
Whoa.
The teacher was like, thank you. And she was like, you're welcome. And so every day, if the girl came in late or whatever, she said she didn't mark her tardy. She talked to her. She tried to pull together some resources for her.
Right.
And she just helped her, and she learned to love her. And she said, I thought your whole thing was just stupid. But now I have a class that I can teach, and these two kids aren't rowdy. Wow. So, you know, getting to know your students and learning to love them And if you can't learn to love them, that's okay. Just being kind and respectful, because that's our job. That's our job as teachers. And we are supposed to do no harm. And then the last one is...
And can I just jump in and say something really quick? Is that story is so moving. And I had a similar experience. I was working at a day camp for our kids. Was teaching in a cooking class for an international adoption, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, teenager she's doing the most insane things, but it's like a voluntary position. The parents are all there. And I'm just thinking, what the heck? This kid is, she's throwing food. She's being disrespectful. She's not listening. Just the worst, the worst behavior. I was just like, I'm breathing. I'm just being present. I'm not here she's here for a day. I'm not here to rock her world or anything. So later that day, I went to a panel presentation, which was adopted kids talking about their experience. This girl gets up and she begins to tell the story of how she was lied to for her whole life from her birth. Her adoptive parents told her this big story they had fabricated about her birth mother. And that summer she had gone to Chile, or I can't remember which country in South America. And she went there and opened up her files and found out that her mother was a drug addict and had tried to murder her as a baby when she had her in jail. The most traumatic things, and so first of all, she learned something so horrible and traumatic and then to feel like the only people she thought she could trust, she no longer felt she could trust. Suddenly that just gave me the hugest insight. So whenever I see anybody misbehaving, I'm just like, what has that person gone through? I do not know. I really try to do that.
Right. And I never knew about trauma kids until I started researching my book. And I thought it was so important that teachers know about these kids. And you think trauma kids, okay, they look like this. They're poor, they're brown, they live in inner cities. No, every kid can be a trauma kid. And so once I read about that, I thought about, the past 3 or 4 years, and the students that I had. And I remember this one student, I'll call her Becky, that's not her real name. And she was a smart girl and she was beautiful. And she would come to class and she was just real flippant, like, just tell us what we have to do. I was like, good morning, Becky. I'm gonna tell you, but we gotta wait till everybody sits down and we get the class started. No, I wanna know now. And I was like, okay, all right, okay. And so class would start and then I would give directions and then she would raise her hand and say, you've talked enough. And I was like, I have? Really? I did? And she was like, I know what to do. I'm just going to start. And I'm like, sure, you can start. But other people need more directions. And so I would give other directions. And then that year I had a student teacher. And she made the student teacher cry by telling her she looked like Cinderella. But she did. She really did. She wore the little dresses and the little bow in her hair. And she was so nice. And she was trying to get along. And she had no classroom management skills. And so she came running to the office one day crying. And I was like, who's with the kids? She was like, they made me cry. I said, who's with the kids? Let's go. You can't leave the kids. So we're going back to the classroom. I was like, what happened? Tell me real quick. And she was like, Becky made me cry. She said I look like Cinderella. And I was like, what? And you're crying over that? And she said she wouldn't do my work. I should teach kindergartners and not high schoolers. And I was like, oh.
She might have a point.
I was like, I'll talk to you later. So I go in the classroom, and as I'm doing this, the principal, of course, is walking down the hall. And so he's like, is everything okay? And I was like, we had a little situation, but could you stand out here and talk to Becky for a couple of minutes if you have time? I need to go talk to my class. So I go in there, and I was like, what happened? Close the door, what happened? And she was like, listen, that little girl, she doesn't need to be teaching us. She needs to be doing this other stuff. I just thought I'd help her. Because we already gave her the name Cinderella. I just thought we'd tell her. Well, come to find out, make a long story short, year before her junior year, she was a senior, her junior year, her parents had a horrible divorce. Her mother became a raging alcoholic. She could not be the popular girl and cheerleading and all this other stuff. She had to get a job. She had to quit cheerleading. She couldn't shop and do all the things she used to do with her friends. So her friends kind of abandoned her. And she was just planning to go to college. So she wanted to go to college. She wanted her senior year to hurry up and end. She wanted to do whatever work she needed to do right now so that she could get the hell out of high school and go to college and get away from this. Trauma kid.
So hence she's in a hurry. She's being rude.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so then a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, Oprah had this special, did a segment on 60 Minutes about trauma kids.
Yes.
And that was amazing. And from that, I learned just asking people, what's your story? So I was able to break through her shell at some point and say, what's the matter?
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on? And of course, she didn't tell me. And one of her friends then intimated a couple of days later, this is what's happening in her life. And so the next day she's coming to class and the student teacher was still there. So I was standing outside the door and I was like, hey, Becky, let's take a walk. And so we took a walk and I said, somebody told me a little bit about your history and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she looked at me and she was like, well, why are you sorry? I said, because I got divorced. And my daughter was kind of feeling like that. And I kind of know what that's like from a mom's perspective. And she was like, but you're not an alcoholic. I was like, I know, but my mom was. She was like, really? And I was like, sucks, right? Because you never know, right? She was like, yeah. Oh my God, I'm so sorry for you. I was like, I'm so sorry for you. We're hugging each other and crying. And she was, I said, just be nice to Cinderella. I said, it's okay if we call her Cinderella outside of class. In class, we have to be kind of respectful. But just be nice. And she was like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. But until I broke through that, until I realized she was a trauma kid who was seriously hurting, it would have been, I would have never gotten to her. I would have never reached her.
Right. And it doesn't have any color or shape or form or wherever you saw it. Really isn't everybody traumatized? 100%. So anytime you see bad behavior or whatever you perceive as bad behavior, just go, that person's been traumatized.
Yes.
Try to be gentle.
And sometimes, I had a student once that just sat in class one day and she just started crying. And I was like, are you okay? She was like, my friend died last night. And I'm like, let's go to counseling.
Oh my gosh.
Let's go. Because they bring in all this stuff, all these stories. And I always would joke and say, I wish they had like a scroll. You know how they have the scroll and CNN at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, like.
All the students have that. My mom was mean to me today. I haven't eaten breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. I haven't eaten in 72 hours. My boyfriend broke up with me. I just wish we knew.
Yeah, but we don't.
So if you're kind and you build relationships, you'll know these things.
Yeah. And I also want to circle back to such a great conversation is that, you were saying at the beginning, like it's our responsibility as teachers to be to do no harm, which is like the Hippocratic oath that I took in medicine.
Yeah.
And I think I want to reiterate that too. Like it's not benign to others to stay in a job you hate because what's happening to you by continuing to be in a horrible situation or what you feel is horrible and doing nothing about it, that stuff kind of bubbles out of you and it gets on other people, on your friends, on your family, on your coworkers, and it could get on your kids if you're a teacher. It for sure is going to. So I love that because I think sometimes we think, well, I should just be practical and I should just stick it out even though this is miserable and there's no hope for me. Right. But there is so much hope that you can find a better way. Yeah.
And so many people stay, for the pension. When I would tell my colleagues what I was doing and that I was retiring early because I needed to get out to do this for my sanity and everyone else's because teaching can kill you because of the stress. And so they were like, oh, you're leaving so much money on the table. I was like, but my life is worth more than that.
Yeah.
It's worth a whole lot more than that. And so that's why I decided that once I left, I'm developing this program called the Happy Teachers Club. And the aim of that is to work with teachers who are burnt out or who are trying to decide, should they leave or should they stay? And so what we do in this year-long program is to help them understand what they love about their job, what they hate about their job, kind of like what I talked about earlier. Yeah. What are some things that they can change? And if they can't change anything, then how can they change their thoughts about what they do every single day? And then from there, develop an exit strategy if that's what they want to do. Awesome. Because that helped me immensely. I went back to school. It took me 2 years to get a master's in organizational leadership because I knew I could coach teachers, but who I really want to coach is their bosses.
I love it.
The administrators, the leaders who are making these decisions and are not thinking about the kids or the classroom teacher when they make these decisions. So my whole thing was, students are our clients. What's best for them? You know, somebody came to you as a doctor and you said, well, let me talk to your parents. I don't need to know what your symptoms are from you. I need to talk to your parents. That makes no sense.
Right.
So
that is so true.
You know, and these programs and these strategies and these things that we have to do that are so far removed from what's best for the kids. And so that's my whole advocate.
And to do that, we have to humble ourselves in a way. It's no longer this, I'm the teacher, you're it's more like, how can I, interface with you? What do you need the most from me? And how are you, like, what if we were, trying to get a 5-star review from every kid? I mean, but at the same time, being responsible and doing our job, whatever that is, you know?
Right. Because I firmly believe we're all put here to do a specific task. You know, mine, it took me a long time to get to the point where I finally narrowed it down to, I want to help teachers. And that's because I was burned out. I didn't know I was burned out until I started researching the book.
So awesome.
And the sad part is that everybody that enters the classroom will burn out. Like doctors, you're in a high contact field, like police officers. No wonder they're going out here killing people. They're so stressed. We're so stressed.
Right.
You want to give a stressed out teacher a gun? I don't think that's a good idea.
No, we've already seen that in the news. It's just like, 4 teachers have already unloaded weapons accidentally. It's like,
Yes.
Okay, Sheryl, so tell us, where can we, well, first I'm gonna ask you one more question and then we want to get your website, but what is I always like to ask people, who is your favorite wild animal and why do they inspire you? What do you love about them?
Okay, so when I moved into my house, I had new windows put in. And after I had new windows put in, I found that ladybugs, not very wild, but ladybugs come throughout the year. A month ago, I saw a ladybug crawling along my ceiling. Where did a ladybug come from in February in Chicago?
Right.
I don't know. So I looked at what the ladybug tells me. And the ladybug helps me to stay grounded and helps me to keep moving and helps me to be an inspiration and to be inspired and to keep learning. And so by doing that, here I am.
And in the middle of an invincible, like in a winter, you know, she shows up unexpected to be like, hey, I'm a ladybug. Yes.
And I'm like, hi, friend. Can I put you in a cage and keep you? Can you be my little pet?
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So tell us, Sheryl, where can people find you if they want to do one-on-one coaching or they want to join your Happy Teachers Club so they can like really start figuring out how to really enjoy work again or how to, craft an exit strategy?
Okay, so they can go to Sheryl Shields, Sheryl, Sheryl with an S. Shields.
And it's right behind you on the video if anybody's, it's right there.
SherylShields.com. And leave me a message, sign up for my newsletter. And I'm going to be launching the Happy Teachers Club really soon. And I'm super excited. I'm only going to open it up to 25 people.
Okay.
So I want to work with a small intimate group of people and really help them to transition to living a life they love.
I love it. I mean, how lucky are they to get to spend time with you, Sheryl? You are just a delight and an awesome storyteller. I'm such a fan of stories, and just that first story you told, man, it says so much. So thank you so much. You guys follow Sheryl. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram too. Yeah. She's wonderful. So thank you all for listening. Post your questions below. If you're, struggling, and Sheryl and I will jump in. So
definitely.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, Sarah.